Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new. And this is the second time I've shot this video because, unbeknownst to me, as I tried to watch it back the first time, it was like 5 seconds long. So apparently I hit the stop button without hearing it or knowing it, and I had like a 15-minute review. So that's awesome. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and do this again. This is a continuation of my 1980s horror series, and specifically to wrap up the first of 3 months for the year 1980 as part of this overall horror series. And we're going to take a look at a good one today, and that is the original Maniac from 1980, which I have a great edition. The Blue Underground edition, the two-disc special edition with a whole slew of special features, many of which I have not watched yet. This is a movie I'd actually seen before on Shudder a few years ago, I believe. So it's a second time watch for me. I remember enjoying it, but also being disturbed by it when I first saw it a few years ago. So have my thoughts changed? Well, let's go ahead and get into it and find out. So Maniac is a 1980 American psychological slasher film directed by William Lustig and written by C.A. Rosenberg. It stars Joe Spinell as Frank Zito, an Italian-American serial killer residing in New York City who murders and scalps young women. Spinell was also a co-writer of the film. With a minuscule budget, many scenes in the film were shot guerrilla style. Originally considered an exploitation film, Maniac has since attained a cult following despite receiving polarized reviews. The film was remade in 2012 by director Frank Calfoun and produced by Alexandria Aja, starring Elijah Wood in the lead role. So basically, this movie opens with an Italian-American landlord, Frank Zito, who was abused as a child by his prostitute mother, Carmen, and as a result becomes a serial killer who murders young women, scalps them, and attaches their hair to mannequins. After he awakens from a nightmare about killing a couple on a beach, he dresses himself, revealing terrible scars on his torso, and leaves his apartment, heading towards Manhattan into Times Square. When Frank is randomly invited inside a hotel by a prostitute, she kisses him before he abruptly strangles and scalps her. He returns home, dresses a mannequin with the dead prostitute's clothing, and nails her scalp to its head. Frank tells himself that beauty is a crime punishable by death. Sometime later, he dresses again and takes a collection of weaponry with him, including a double-barreled shotgun. Before leaving, he drives around Brooklyn and the Queens area, where he finds a couple exiting a local disco and parking near the side of the Verrazano Bridge. When the boyfriend starts up the vehicle after his date sees Frank spying on him, Frank kills the couple with his shotgun and then adds the woman to his mannequin collection. After seeing his recent crime on television, he talks to himself and the mannequins as he sobs himself to sleep. So that's the setup, and the premise for Maniac from 1980s. As far as the cast goes, we have Joe Spinell as Frank Zito, Caroline Munro as Anna D'Antoni, Gail Lawrence as Rita, Kelly Piper as the nurse, Rita Montone as Hooker, Tom Savini as Disco Boy. Those are some interesting character names. But that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for 1980's Maniac, directed by William Lustig. What can you say about this movie? It's very well done. There's a lot of pros about this movie. It is pretty disturbing. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about the movie. So from a pro standpoint, you got to start with the atmosphere and the grimy, low-budget look and feel of the movie. It definitely is not going to be duplicated by a Hollywood shined-up version today. It's very unique in that regard, in that it has a realness and a disturbing aspect as a result of these things, as well as having a shoestring budget, a very low-budget quality, and using a setting during that time that's just not going to be duplicated today. So all of that, I think, makes the movie more effective as a result. The movie has many great sequences throughout, but to me, the best or my favorite sequence of the entire movie is in the midway point, where he stalks a nurse who gets off her shift into the subway, in the subway area, and into a bathroom down there. It just has great tension, great buildup of suspense, and a great payoff as well. a great kill. I just love that whole sequence there. That's the most I was into the entire movie, was during that sequence, even though there are other great sequences in the movie. I think the performance of Joe Spinell as Frank Zito is almost second to none. One of the great horror lead performances of all time, right up there with Kathy Bates, Jack Nicholson, Anthony Perkins. Definitely a top 5 or top 10 horror performance for my money. Just everything from his physical acting, his look, his psychology, his changing demeanor on a dime, almost makes you worried that he really was disturbed in real life, or that at least he knew how to tap into that. Even though I don't think he really was disturbed in real life. I think he was just a brilliant actor who gave a brilliant performance. A brilliant performance in this movie. And because of his performance, it really brings so much more to this movie and the narrative and the horror of it overall than you otherwise would have gotten by a lesser performance. I love the late 70s New York aesthetic and setting that this movie takes place in. Really is almost another character in the movie that also adds to the realness and the griminess of the overall movie. It's the kind of movie and has the kind of aesthetic that's going to make you want to take a bath or a shower after you watch it. And that was true the first time I saw it. It's still true the second time I watched it for this review. So absolutely love that New York grimy setting where it just feels very unsafe, very dirty. I can't explain it. It's just 70s and 80s New York is unlike anything else from a setting standpoint and an aesthetic standpoint. Of course, you got to talk about Tom Savini and the gore effects that he has in this movie. They're fantastic, especially the shotgun kill, which is probably the most well-known kill. That's actually on Savini himself. He's a character in this movie. He's the disco boy, and he just gives he sets up his own demise as a character in this movie, which is also very interesting. But there's scalpings in this movie. There's a final hallucination kill in this movie where we see a character's head ripped off and his body torn apart. Just fantastic gore effects. Fantastic practical gore by Tom Savini here. He was really on a run. He had Friday the 13th and Maniac in 1980, and then he followed that up with The Burning in 1981. So definitely one of the great, if not the greatest, practical gore makeup effect artists of all time, Tom Savini. I like the fact that not all the kills are the same, or they're not carried out in the same manner. You get a choking and a scalping, you get the shotgun kills, you get a stabbing with like a long sword or a long blade. There's a lot of nice variety of kills in this movie and on-screen violence that really makes this movie stand out more than other slasher movies for sure during this time. The movie also does a great job of providing the motivations and backstory of our main character here, without giving too much away or focusing too much on his upbringing or maternal drama that he has with his mom as a kid, so that the audience doesn't feel too much sympathy for him or for what he does as the movie goes on. Because if you did, of course, the movie would collapse under. It wouldn't work at all. So they do a really good job in that aspect of sort of peeling back the onion a little bit, but not all the way. And then my final couple of pros is the directing by William Lustig is fantastic. And so is the score of this music, which really adds to a lot of the tension and the uneasiness that this movie has. And especially the kill scene. So yeah, a lot going for this original Maniac movie from 1980. Excuse me, I had something in my eye. As far as cons go, the biggest one for me, I felt like the movie could have explored Anna's character a bit more. Caroline Munro was a big name during this time, and I just kind of feel like the movie doesn't really utilize her as much as it could have. She really doesn't feel like she has enough to do here. I think she doesn't appear until halfway through the movie to begin with. She's kind of relegated as a side character that we really don't know that much about. I just felt like they could have done more with her, so that was a little disappointing. I don't think this is the most highly rewatchable movie, and this maybe is just a personal opinion. I tend to like more fun, rewatchable horror movie. Even though I can recognize a more disturbing, harder to watch movie like Martyrs or Maniac here, and I can appreciate all of its movie making aspects, and I can appreciate a lot of that goes into it. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna be rewatching this as often as some other movies like Creepshow or Poltergeist or something like that. That's just maybe me more than anything, but because of some of the disturbing kills, especially the scalping, the on-screen violence, and the overall portrayal of women, which is really outdated when you watch it nowadays. It's just not as much of a fun horror movie to me. So that's just more of a me thing. And then finally, it's not all that creative from a narrative standpoint. It really is kind of a ripoff of Psycho, but with a more R-rated, NC-17 rated version, where you have a lot more gore and on-screen violence and kills, of course. But basically, it is Psycho in a nutshell, where they take this guy that's a serial killer, but they change the setting from California in a motel and a big house to New York City. So I mean, I'm not gonna rip them too much for that because it is its own movie, but that definitely, to say it doesn't have a connection or doesn't flat out take from Psycho, I think you're fooling yourself. I mean, other than, like I said, the violence added to Psycho is basically what this movie is with a different setting. But that's kind of a nitpick. All in all, guys, this is a fantastic horror movie from 1980. Psychological slasher movie, exploitation movie, however you want to consider it. With great performances, a really good, well executed narrative, great directing, and all time talked about gore, practical gore and kills on screen. So I'm going to give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. It definitely stands out and has its cult following for Maniac from 1980. So 8.5 out of 10. Go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of this movie. Do you like it more than me, less than me, about the same, why or why not? Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. We're only 1 month out of 3 just for 1980. So needless to say, this series is going to go on for quite a while yet, just for 1980, 2 more months, plus my top 10 or 15 horror movies from that specific year. So you don't want to miss any of that or any of my great horror content beyond this series for the rest of this year or next. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Hope you're enjoying this 1980s series. And as always, stay scared. Bye.